Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day, welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can hear us simultaneously on our audio streaming app. That's Evox PBS Receiver. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo. And last Friday, Myanmar was rattled by 7.7 magnitude earthquake that left so much devastation and has claimed lives. Reuters reported that the toll from Myanmar's earthquake, citing information from Myanmar state media, continued to rise on Sunday as foreign rescue teams and some communities scrambles to mount rescue efforts with limited resources. The 7.7 magnitude quake, one of Myanmar's strongest in a century, jolted the war-torn Southeast Asian nation on Friday, leaving around 1,700 people dead, 3,400 injured, and over 300 missing as of Sunday, the military government said. The junta chief, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, warned that the number of fatalities could rise, as state media reported. Meanwhile, our government, the Philippine government, will send its troops to assist in the search and rescue efforts of the Burmese government in solidarity with Myanmar during this difficult time, as stated by the Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Chidoro Jr. And to know more about the scope of this operation and how the Philippines is prepared for the big one. Joining me now is the Undersecretary and as well as the Administrator of Office of Civil Defense, Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno. Undersecretary Nepomuceno, thank you for joining us in the program.
Thank you too for inviting me and the chance to explain what's going on.
Okay, thank you. And first, now the Philippine government will send its contingent team to Myanmar. So what agencies that will constitute this rescue team, Undersecretary?
The team will be composed of members from different agencies. This is the reason why we call it the Philippine Interagency Humanitarian Contingent, or PIAC. Mainly, we will be relying on the members of the 525th Engineering Combat Battalion of the Philippine Army, the 505th Search and Rescue Group of the Philippine Air Force, the Bureau of Fire Protection. They have a special rescue unit, the MMDA, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority. Then from the private sector, they will also help us because they have trained units from the Apex Mining and the EDC, Energy Development Corporation. Then, of course, we have the medical teams from the Department of Health. OCD will also be there. We will be the ones to establish the command and control and the communications capability and the logistics for these operations. The Philippine Air Force will be the one to provide for us the means to travel to Myanmar. They will be providing at least one or two C-130 planes for our trip to Myanmar.
Okay. And these teams that we are going to send Undersecretary Nepomuceno, so these are the trained people,
Yes.
particularly the search and rescue operations like this one.
Yes, they're highly trained. In fact, we also sent them last 2 years ago to Turkey. Remember, there was a huge earthquake also that struck Turkey. So we sent them also last year, and they were able to help the victims in Turkey. Now it's our time to also help Myanmar because as part of the ASEAN, we always adhere to the principle of one ASEAN one response. And in solidarity with the critical moments
Mm-hmm.
that Myanmar is now experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines, by the given the instructions of the president, President Bongbong Marcos,
Mm-hmm.
to immediately offer assistance to Myanmar,
Mm-hmm.
and this was reiterated to us by our chief, the Secretary of National Defense, who is also the chairman of the NDRRMC. So immediately we organize our teams, and we are ready to send them tomorrow, April 1. That's the
Mm-hmm.
target.
Okay, and that's a fast deployment of our personnel, and they're going to use, since you mentioned that these teams were previously handled operations in Turkey, so they're going to use their experience in Turkey in this situation right now in Myanmar. Correct, Undersecretary?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, the triggering mechanism is for Myanmar
Mm-hmm.
itself to request for international support. And they have already declared a national state of emergency
Mm-hmm.
2 days ago.
Right.
And that triggered the international community to be available for assisting Myanmar.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as part of the international community, it's incumbent upon us to comply with our commitment that once one country needs the others, we will be there to help each other.
Okay. Okay. So what is the scope of those personnel that will be deployed? I think tomorrow, in areas the hardest hit by the earthquakes in Myanmar.
Mainly two contributions. One, we have the medical teams from the Department of Health to offer medical assistance to those who are in need of that. And of course, the collapse structure rescue teams. Our teams are ready to do that also. But once they reach Myanmar, the tactical operations will be dependent on our counterparts in the area. By the way, the head of our contingent will be commanded by our Philippine Air Force officer, Lieutenant Colonel Diploma. So he'll be the tactical officer on the ground.
Oh, okay. So he's going to be the lead, leading the operations of that search and rescue efforts in Myanmar. Correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
He'll be coordinating directly with our embassy officials in Myanmar. And then, of course, the DFA will also be on top of the situation.
I see. Okay. Reports, Undersecretary, reports say that over 100 personnel will be deployed in Myanmar to aid the Burmese authorities in their search and rescue or retrieval operations. So, apart from this, would there be additional manpower to be sent there?
For now, we are sending, the composite team is composed of 90 active members from the different agencies. The others are the crew from the C-130. So 90 teams, 90 members of the composite team will be there. But if Myanmar will need more, we are ready to send more. So this is an initial composite team that we're sending, and this has the approval of the Secretary of National Defense.
I see. Okay. Undersecretary, there are 4 Filipinos still unaccounted for in the Myanmar earthquake last Friday. So, my question is, will the Office of Civil Defense, or particularly the rescue team that we're going to send there, prioritize to rescue our fellow kababayans and find them?
How we wish we can do that as a matter of priority, because of course, utmost to our attention will be our own kababayans there. As reported as of today, we're still looking for 4 Filipinos that are still unaccounted for. 2 are residing in the building that collapsed, and 2 are still not being contacted by our personnel. If we can do that, of course, we will be glad to prioritize them. But then again, once we reach the ground, we will wait for the instructions coming from our counterparts.
Oh, okay. So the Myanmar authorities will tell which of the areas that needs rescue. Is that
Yes.
correct, Isaac?
Yes. There are five heavily hit
Okay.
areas in Myanmar. So once our team would reach Naupitai area,
Mm-hmm.
which is their new capital, that's their government center,
Mm-hmm.
there are five major areas that are reported to be heavily hit, heavily damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So we will wait for the tactical command of the counterparts in Myanmar.
I see. Okay. Just to confirm, Undersecretary Nepomuceno, so aside from Myanmar, are we going to send the same rescue team in Thailand?
Not yet. Thailand has not yet manifested their need for
Okay.
international help. So
Mm-hmm.
we're prioritizing Myanmar because Myanmar is the ground zero with this big earthquake. And Myanmar, as we understand, has uh, not that much resources to help themselves, and they need the international community.
I see. Okay, so switching now to another aspect, particularly the context of the Philippines regarding this earthquake. So these past months, Undersecretary, and recently, we have conducted series of earthquake drills to prepare ourselves of what we call the big one, or the strike of 7.2 magnitude earthquake that will strike Metro Manila and nearby cities. Now that a large metropolis like Bangkok and Burmese cities and towns like the capital, Naypyidaw, and also the old capital, the Yangon, were hit and devastated by the 7.7 earthquake, respectively. So, Undersecretary, what can the Philippines learn from these disasters that our ASEAN countries has experienced last Friday?
Two things. There are two ways to prepare, or two levels to really prepare for big earthquakes. We are already familiar with the second level of preparations, which is what we always see: the duck cover and hold drill,
Mm-hmm.
the mobilization of our residents, students, workers,
Mm-hmm.
um, government officials, government employees. We're already familiar with the quarterly national simultaneous earthquake drill.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a drill to practice our would-be reaction once indeed the big earthquake happens. Of course, we don't want the big earthquake to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the more important aspect of preparations really is the first level of preparation, which is the engineering solutions needed to make sure that our structures, for example, the houses,
Mm-hmm.
offices, buildings, infrastructures such as bridges and other critical
Mm-hmm.
structures such as hospitals, um, energy areas. So we have to make sure that these are all compliant with the strict provisions, safety provisions
Mm-hmm.
of the building code, meaning these structures should be able to withstand up to even an 8.5 magnitude earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
So so that we are sure that the residents inside these structures are safe, because no matter how much we perfect the duct cover and hold drill, if you are residing inside a structure or a house that will collapse, then you will be buried inside these structures. So
Mm-hmm.
engineering solutions is indeed the first level. That's the first line of defense to everyone. Also,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make sure that the houses or structures or buildings are not located in areas that are highly prone
Mm-hmm.
or vulnerable to landslides. That once huge earthquakes would happen and the landslides would happen, no matter how solid or how strong the structures of the houses are, then they will go with the landslide. So the first line of defense really are the engineering solutions that our community should take seriously. That's why we
Mm-hmm.
are seeking the help of our colleagues in the local government units,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to be really strict in approving the plans and the implementation of these plans for construction of houses and other structures.
I see. So you mentioned earlier that the OCD conducts a quarterly earthquake drill. So Is there any proposal, Undersecretary Nepomuceno, that the OCD must conduct earthquake drills on a monthly basis so that people can recall of what to do during an earthquake, when an earthquake strikes?
That's right. That's right. After the quarterly drills are done, of course, every 3 months, but this is um, a practice among all the response agencies of the national government to make sure that we are really able to communicate with each other and respond efficiently and effectively once needed when these big earthquakes would happen. But in between these quarterly simultaneous drills, we encourage and we are actually monitoring even the private sector to be doing their own drills, including the Department of Education. Sorry, the schools are practicing on their own. Also, we encourage that, and that will help us develop the so-called muscle memory, the collective muscle memory of everyone,
Right.
that we know what we really should do on the first few minutes once these big earthquakes would happen. By the way, I just have to take advantage of this chance to explain that the big one refers to the West Valley Fault System
Yes, that's right.
moving. And if this moves, according to the studies done by Peebles, it will unleash a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. That's too strong. Even a 6.5 magnitude earthquake, that's too strong. Now, in the study that they've done along with JICA in way back 2004, it says, and this is a scientific study, it says that an estimated 30 to 50,000 individuals can immediately perish or die. And around 162,000 people will also be seriously injured. That's too much. Well, by that time, we will have to be sure, and we're not sure, to be honest, if the health system can accommodate that.
Okay.
Because in the first place, in
Yeah,
that scenario, the structures, including the hospitals, we're not sure yet if this can withstand the earthquake that would happen now. The West Valley Fault System is just one of the many fault systems in the Philippines. On record, there are around 175 fault systems and 6 active trenches.
Yeah.
Now, the active trenches, for example, the Manila Trench on the left side of the archipelago, that's within the West Philippine Sea, that can unleash, according to science, an 8.3 magnitude earthquake. That's even stronger
Yeah,
than the
then the
7.2
7.2.
magnitude.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's a possibility that a tsunami can be caused by this huge earthquake by the Manila Trench on the left side of our archipelago.
Okay.
So we really have to prepare. We have to catch up with the levels 1 and 2 of our preparation.
Okay. So yeah, so we have to sound the alarm
Yes.
of
Yeah.
this catastrophic earthquake that we are going to experience in the near future. Hopefully,
That's right.
we'll
That's
not experience this in the near future. But of course, I would like to ask this again, Yusek Nepomuceno. Is Metro Manila ready for the big one?
Again, there are 2 levels of preparedness. With level 2 on how we will respond, how we will rescue, we are prepared for that. But we need, of course, the international community to also be there once this really happens. The Philippines alone, like other countries, even the richer countries, would need the international community's help once this really happens, because it will be overwhelming. Now we have highly trained personnel, again, from the uniform services. We have around 20,000 individuals from the uniform services, including the Bureau of Fire, the PNP, and the AFP. We are there. And we have the system to do this. However,
All right.
the more important level, as I mentioned, is the first level of preparedness. The engineering solutions that would ensure that our structures are indeed strong enough to withstand the tremors that will be created by these huge earthquakes. We still have time. The private sector should not rely only on the national government or the LGUs only. We have the power. It's our responsibility to also check our own structures, especially those who have yet to build their own houses, make sure that the design and the implementation of these designs will be compliant with the very strict provisions, safety provisions of the building code. That's
Right.
the first necessary defense and preparations that's available to everyone. That's important.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned there's still time, and yeah, you are emphasizing that the time is the key in preparation of the big one here in the Metro Manila, USEC Nepomuceno.
Yes. But
Right.
if I'll qualify that, sir, even if we do things perfectly or if we do things right today,
Mm-hmm.
we need at least around 10 years to do this. It's not instant to make sure that buildings are retrofitted, all schools are retrofitted. For example, in Japan, Japan is our gold standard, of course. That's the benchmark that we have to look up to as a model. All schools in Japan, for example, are retrofitted.
Mm-hmm.
All hospitals are retrofitted, and they have also used available
I
technologies,
see.
seismic isolators, dampers, rollers. These are important features, or the retrofitting engineering, retrofitting of their buildings are already
Okay.
being rolled out. So we
Okay.
have to do this.
Okay, so meaning to say, we have to acquire best practices from our neighboring countries in dealing
That's
with
right.
this
That's right.
earthquake prevention. Okay, so just one more thing, Undersecretary. So your message to our Filipinos here in abroad regarding this situation that happened here in Myanmar, as well as the in preparation for the big one. The floor is yours, Yusek Nepomuceno.
Yeah. Thank you. The earthquakes cannot really be predicted. When they would happen, nobody can really predict that. There are claims that there are technologies available already to predict earthquakes, but we have yet to see that. So meaning we have to be ready and we have to be better prepared. And again, first step will be the engineering solutions. Second step is the involvement of everyone to the drills that we are providing. And we are happy that for the last few national simultaneous earthquake drills, the participation is growing. For example, last March, the participants grew from the usual dozens or hundreds. The participants from the LGUs totaled to more than 1,000, including the private sector. So we have to create this collective muscle memory so that everyone can be safe. We can spare lives, especially once we save our own lives, then we will have the chance to save the lives of our loved ones. And if there's still a chance, we can help our neighbors.
Okay. All right. And with that, thank you so much for joining us in the program. That was a valuable discussion regarding this particular issue in Myanmar, as well as the big one here in the Philippines. So thank you, Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno, the Administrator of Office of Civil Defense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you too.
And you've just heard and listened of the interview with Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno, the Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense. And that concludes this edition of Front and Center, together with Radyo Pilipinas World Service Production Team and technical personnel Susan Aison and Hiro Lucero. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay, love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.